come over here. What? Father, what's going on? Shh. Be quiet. Having received an urgent call from work, I returned home in the middle of the night. I tried to return to the upstairs bedroom quietly, not to wake my family, but suddenly, my father-in-law dragged me into the attic. Looking puzzled at my father-in-law, listened carefully to the noise below. What? Despite my confusion, I did as told and paid attention to the sounds below. Then, I indeed heard a strange noise that I had never heard before. I thought, what is this? After noticing the sound, I found a gap that allowed me to peek downstairs. And the scene I saw was also bizarre. I thought, what? What in the world is that? As I trembled in fear from the bizarre sight. Run away quickly. He whispered to me so that the woman below wouldn't hear. Trusting my father-in-law, I decided to follow his advice. I am Claire Foster, a 38-year-old system programmer. Hey, Robert, what time will you finish work and come home today? Well, work is calm now, so I think I can leave on time. Then, it looks like we can all have dinner together tonight. Well then, Father, we are off to work. Take care, have a good day. Robert is my husband, and we married 2 years ago. Currently, we live with him and my father-in-law, just the three of us. We don't have children. It's not that we dislike children or don't want them. The reason lies in the traffic accident I had when I was younger. It's been a while since we've gone out together with Mom and Claire. Yes, really. Let's do this more often. Years ago, I was enjoying a drive with my parents, driven by my father. As long as we were healthy, it seemed possible to continue these outings. Yet, the tragedy struck suddenly. Look out. What? Oh, no. Ah. Suddenly, a car that ran a red light crashed into my father's car head-on. The impact caused our car to flip over, and I lost consciousness. Witnesses must have called an ambulance. When I regained consciousness, I was in a hospital bed. I immediately called for the doctor and nurse to check on my parents, but unfortunately, your parents have passed away. Moreover, you were lucky to survive, but what? Is there something wrong? The doctor hesitated but informed me about the death of my parents. Not only that, but he also explained my condition. Actually, your uterus was damaged. What does that mean? Does it mean I can't have children in the future? It's not that you can't conceive. But it's true that it will be difficult for you to get pregnant. That's devastating. Thus, I lost my parents in the accident, and the accident led to my infertility. I thought both my parents and my dream of becoming a mother were taken away. That reality was a shock. There were times when I couldn't muster the will to do anything, and even considered joining my parents. However, while sorting through their belongings, I found photos of my parents smiling and other memorable items. Thinking that my parents would be sad if I went to them now, I managed to stop myself. I thought, I can't go on like this. I still have my job. Though becoming infertile made me think, maybe love isn't for me anymore. I immersed myself in my work as a system programmer. Before I knew it, I was nearly 40. My life changed 3 years ago when I was 35. I'm Robert Foster, here for business. Nice to meet you. Hello, nice to meet you too. That was how I met my husband. My first impression of him was that he was a serious and honest worker. As someone who was devoted to work, I found Robert's gentlemanly attitude towards work very appealing. Perhaps he felt the same way about me. We had a good relationship at work, but unexpectedly, Robert suddenly said something surprising one day. Excuse me, but would you like to go out for dinner with me sometime? Huh? Robert, sorry to ask, but what about your wife? At that time, Robert was 37, 2 years older than me. It wouldn't have been strange if he were married, so I checked just in case. Embarrassingly, I got divorced due to infertility issues caused by me. So I'm single now. Oh, I see. Although I felt slightly guilty for making him say that. Hearing his story allowed me to take a step forward. I thought, if I'm infertile and can't have children, there's no worry about being blamed, right? That's reassuring. The reason I had given up on love due to my infertility was the fear of being blamed and mentally attacked by men who wanted children. However, since Robert shared similar concerns, it felt like we could support each other. Sounds nice, let's definitely go out for a meal. Thus, I accepted the date with Robert. His stories were interesting even in private. And I began to feel that I could enjoy spending more time with him. As we spent time together, we naturally drew closer, and Robert confessed his feelings, leading us to start dating. A year later, when I was 36, it happened. Claire, I love you. We might not be able to have children, but will you marry me? He proposed earnestly, looking into my eyes, so my answer was already decided. Actually, I became infertile due to an accident in the past. So, it's okay if we can't have children. As long as I have you, Robert. Most people want children when they marry. Thinking about it, infertility could indeed be a disadvantage when considering marriage. However, we were both open about our weaknesses and agreed that we could have a fulfilling life without children, and so we were able to marry. I thought this was the beginning of my happy new life, but sigh, I wish I could have shown my mom how happy we are together. I wish I could have shown this to my own parents too. We had such conversations during our wedding. My mother-in-law, or my husband's mother from my perspective, had passed away 2 years before our wedding. I had heard stories about how much she loved him. Maybe he has a bit of a mama's boy? I had thought so at times, but valuing one's parents is something I understand too. I told myself not to think too deeply about it. As for where we live after getting married, as I mentioned earlier, we live with my husband and father-in-law at his parental home. It was my husband's wish to live with his father. Claire, if I move out, my dad will be left alone, right? Yes, that's right. Dad is getting older, and I'm worried about him. So, I hate to ask, but could we live together? Living together? Okay, that's fine. Honestly, I was a bit hesitant about living in his family home. I had imagined spending a peaceful time just the two of us. However, since my own parents had already passed away, I couldn't do anything for them anymore. Therefore, I understood my husband's desire to do something for his father. So I agreed to his request. Besides wanting to respect my husband's feelings for his father's sake. And I also had another reason. I thought my husband was serious and kind, so surely his father must be like him. If that was the case, I could probably get along well with my father-in-law. Thinking too optimistically was, in hindsight, a mistake. I thought, I wonder why I can't sleep. Some people find it hard to sleep in a different environment, although they can sleep well in their own bed. I had never had trouble sleeping in different places, like at my grandparents' house or in hotels while traveling. However, I only felt this discomfort when sleeping at my in-laws' house. It wasn't just because I was using a different blanket or pillow. The relationship with my father-in-law was likely affecting it. He was keeping his distance from me. I felt that way, but I couldn't understand why I was being treated like that. Excuse me, father, do you have a moment? Sorry, I'm busy now, talk to me later. Understood. Even when I tried to talk to him, he would avoid the conversation by saying he was busy or respond with vague nods like, ah, MHM, or is that so? It seemed like he was avoiding any real interaction with me. I thought, did I do something to upset father-in-law? I thought there must be a reason for his attitude, but I couldn't pinpoint anything. Maybe my husband knew something. That's what I thought, but around a year after our marriage, my husband's behavior toward me began to change. Hey, Robert, has your father always been taciturn or bad at interacting with people? Huh? Why do you ask that? It seems like he's avoiding me, or there's some distance. I don't know about that. Did you do something wrong? Stop bothering me with such things. What? Robert, what's wrong with you? The kind man I had married was gone, and he started treating me harshly with his words. His change was just the beginning of a trend towards worsening behavior. And the reason my father-in-law was keeping his distance from me, unlike my husband, was a legitimate one, but that would become clear only much later. My husband's actions towards me were not just harsh words. If he found something unnecessary, he might even throw it away without asking me, including things that were precious to me. Hey, Robert, have you seen the stuffed animal my parents gave me? Ah. That dirty thing? I threw that away a long time ago. You don't need a stuffed animal at your age, right? What did you say? That stuffed animal was a precious gift from my parents. His actions became increasingly tyrannical. I thought, from now on, I need to keep my important things out of Robert's sight. I was thinking just that, organizing my belongings, when it happened. Claire, may I have a moment? This stuffed animal, it's yours, isn't it? Yes, that's mine. I'm so glad you found it. Ah. I saw Robert taking it somewhere. I see, thank you so much. You've saved my day. Thanks to my father-in-law, the precious stuffed animal was returned to me. I thought, father-in-law is actually kind. I never thought he would retrieve it for me, given the distance he had kept before. There must be a reason for his behavior towards me. I was certain there was a reason, and now I felt confident that we could build a good relationship. Just as I was hopeful. Unfortunately, the situation was about to take another sudden turn for the worse. Huff, huff. Ugh. Father, are you okay? Please, hold on. One day, he suddenly complained of feeling unwell. He looked pale, and I decided to take him to the hospital. The initial examination at the hospital didn't reveal any illness, but just to be sure, he was admitted for further tests. I reported this to my husband. However, my husband seemed indifferent and made an unbelievable remark. If they find something, the doctors will treat him, right? It doesn't involve me. What are you saying? Didn't we agree to live together because you were worried about your father? His words were clearly inconsistent with what he had said at the beginning of our marriage. I thought, was he always this cold-hearted? Where did the kind man I married go? I was shocked by his drastic change, but worse was yet to come. It was only a few days later that events unfolded that made me think just that. While I was out shopping, I spotted my husband in the city. At first, I hesitated to approach as I observed. Kathy, you're so cute. Oh, stop it, Robert. I thought, what is that? My husband was walking arm in arm with a woman, laughing and chatting like lovers. Their behavior seemed like that of a couple, but something felt off. It was the age of the woman with my husband. It was my first time seeing her, so her actual age was unclear. But she looked significantly older than my husband. Could she be a relative I don't know about? Or, as it appeared from their behavior, was he having an affair? I thought either way, Robert's actions are suspicious. Just letting it go would only leave me with more questions. I decided I wanted to know the truth, so I resolved to hire a detective agency. Amidst concerns about my father-in-law's health and my husband's behavior, I was living restless days. Soon after, the hospital called with the test results, and I rushed to hear the news. Please, take a moment. Your father-in-law has terminal cancer with about 2 years to live. That can't be. Just as I suspected. While I was shocked, my father-in-law seemed strangely calm. Maybe he had sensed something about his condition. Soon after receiving the diagnosis, the detective agency reported back. Robert was not having an affair, the woman was a close family relative. Hoping against hope, I had wanted to believe a more favorable explanation. According to our investigation, your husband is having an affair. That can't be. My hopes were dashed. Robert was indeed unfaithful. I had no choice but to face reality and reviewed the photographs provided. Wait, isn't this a different person? The woman I had previously seen was older, but the woman in the photos was much younger. Could Robert be cheating with multiple women? I thought, regardless, he has betrayed me. I couldn't forgive such betrayal. Although I considered divorce, my father-in-law was battling terminal cancer. If I divorced now, would he have to face his illness and loneliness alone? Thinking it over, I decided to prioritize my father-in-law's care and delay any decision about divorce. Father, how are you feeling today? Today is a better day. Sorry for all the worries. No, it's okay. He didn't seem to need immediate care yet, but given his prognosis, his condition could change unpredictably. I wanted to stay by his side as much as possible. Kathy, over here. Robert, this way. I thought, there he goes again, truly unbelievable. As usual, my husband was completely absorbed in his affair. The more I observed, the more evidence of his infidelity accumulated, deepening my dismay. I thought, I can't trust Robert with father-in-law's care anymore. With my trust in my husband completely eroded, I took care of my father-in-law by myself while Robert continued his affairs. However, weeks later, a crisis at work arose. My boss contacted me, needing urgent attention on a matter that required my presence. I was worried about my father-in-law, but my boss seemed extremely urgent, suggesting something serious was going on. With that in mind, I hurried to the workplace. When I arrived, I saw my boss and colleagues bustling with activity. So I checked with my boss about the situation. While receiving instructions, I also began to work. And though the task was more challenging than I expected, we managed to complete it successfully with everyone's cooperation. I was able to go home after that. I thought, it's gotten so late. By the time I finished work and got home, it was already the middle of the night. So I quietly unlocked the door to avoid waking my father-in-law and entered the house. I decided to head quietly to the bedroom upstairs and rest for the night. Just as I was about to open the bedroom door, Claire, come over here. What? Father, what's going on? Shh, be quiet. I was surprised that he was still awake, but even more surprised by where he led me, to the attic. Now used as a storeroom, and he even closed the door behind us. Father, what's happening? Listen carefully to the noise below. What? I was truly baffled by his actions, but as instructed, I paid attention to the sounds coming from below, and indeed heard an unusual noise I had never heard before. I thought, what? What is this noise? Noticing the noise, I looked down and realized I could see through a gap under the door. The scene visible from there was bizarre, with a woman resembling a mistress walking down the hallway with a bloodshot face. Claire, where are you? I won't forgive a woman who tempts Robert. I thought, is she looking for me? It seemed that the mistress's intent was not towards my husband but towards me. I could hear the bitterness in her voice clearly enough to believe it. Gulp. Could it be that my life is in danger? Given the mistress's demeanor, it must be. I instinctively held my breath, sensing danger. I thought, what should I do? I was frozen with fear and confusion, but seeing my state, my father-in-law spoke up. We can't stay here. She might appear at any moment, so run. But, what about you, father? Don't worry about me. Just focus on avoiding Robert until the divorce is finalized. Understood. Right now, my father-in-law is trying his best to protect me. To honor his effort, I realized I must prioritize my safety. I had to avoid a direct confrontation with the mistress. As I was checking her whereabouts, I'll definitely find you one day, Claire. The mistress left those words behind as she stormed off. Phew, did she leave? Claire, take this. Then, you must leave the house immediately. Yes, understood. With that, I received a letter from my father-in-law and rushed out of the house. Later, I managed to divorce through an attorney I had prepared beforehand. And also claimed compensation for the infidelity, which was proven by the detective agency's investigation during working hours. After informing the company, my husband was fired. With the divorce finalized, there was also the matter of compensation. And I met my ex-husband again. Humph. Even if we're divorced, I'll be with Kathy anyway, so I'm fine. Plus, I'm about to come into a lot of money, so I can pay the compensation. Thank you for that. My ex-husband said this while pretending to be tough and paid the compensation in full. And strangely, the mistress was there too. What a foolish woman to let go of Robert, she said, with a triumphant smirk. I thought, still, she looks older than in the photos. The mistress might think she has won, but I was never competing. I really couldn't care less of what she says. What bothered me more was the disconnection between her photographs and her actual appearance. 2 years later, after my father-in-law's long illness, he passed away. I attended the funeral, but finally this day has come. Kept me waiting. I thought, is that Robert? Such an inappropriate remark at his own father's funeral. And not just his words, his appearance had deteriorated so much over the past 2 years. He looked like a different person. I paid that compensation thinking I'd get the money soon. It took 2 more years because of that stupid old man. Hey, Robert, stop it. Do you realize what you're saying? During the funeral, of course, my ex-husband's family was present and could not stand his incessant offensive remarks, stepping in to stop him. Oh, come on. It's fine. Robert has had a tough time too. Huh, what? You are, why? The mistress appeared, and at the sight of her, my ex-husband's family was shocked and speechless. The reason became apparent as we moved to the crematorium. Everyone seemed surprised when they saw Kathy. Did something happen to her? When I questioned my ex-husband's family, they explained with slightly pale faces. Her name is Kathy. We were shocked because we thought she was Diane. Diane? That's Robert's mother's name. Claire, you've never met her, right? No, she had already passed away when we got married. However, the conversation helped me understand why the mistress seemed older. I thought, well, I guess Kathy's story doesn't really matter now. I wondered when my ex-husband would start causing a commotion for his own purposes. As I suspected, it didn't take long. Come on, cut the boring speeches and just give me the inheritance already. His big expectation was his father's inheritance, which he thought he was about to receive, leading to his strange excitement. That's when I decided to confront him with a reality he wasn't aware of. Unfortunately for you, Robert, things aren't going your way. Father left a will. A will. Yes, that's right. I was legally adopted by father-in-law. The inheritance is mine. What? Don't joke with me. I expected complaints from him, and he did not disappoint. However, it was absurd for him, who had behaved so selfishly, to complain at all. Who's joking? You neglected father-in-law and cheated on me. And now you have the audacity to act high and mighty. Ugh. Damn it. As I glared and rebuked my ex-husband, he could say no more and just bit his lip in frustration. The only person left to comfort him was his mistress. It's okay, Robert. I'll take care of you, she said, embracing my ex-husband, comforting him. Although she had always spoken in a somewhat subordinate tone to my ex-husband, her demeanor was different this time. I thought, could it be? What came to mind was a letter left by my father-in-law. The content was hard to believe. I have a sixth sense. Robert's mistress, Kathy, has been possessed by my deceased wife, Diane. When I read the letter, I thought it couldn't be true. But now, seeing the mistress embracing my ex-husband, her actions and words might well be those of my mother-in-law. I thought, is that why there's such a difference between her photos and in person? Photos capture reality, and ghosts don't appear in them, only the real, younger woman. Probably, that's the case. However, depending on the observer, such as me, my father-in-law, or the ex-husband's family, it seemed that my mother-in-law's ghost overlaid the mistress's appearance. That's why she looked older. My father-in-law had also mentioned the reason for my ex-husband's first divorce. Robert's first divorce was because of Diane. She was overly attached to Robert and tormented his first wife. That was the cause of their divorce. I had heard that the mother-in-law doted on my ex-husband, but I never imagined it to this extent. The extent of it left me completely taken aback. Moreover, now, even after death, she was still clinging to my ex-husband, possessing the mistress. Robert has done nothing wrong. It's all this woman's fault. What is this person even talking about? Was the mistress particularly susceptible to being possessed by spirits? Her eerie demeanor gave me chills. I thought, could this be due to her bad deeds? Seeing her almost blended ego with the mother-in-law, I couldn't help but think that her past actions might have invited this. It seemed this wasn't the first time the mistress was under the influence of the mother-in-law. The letter from my father-in-law revealed that I had fled that night. And it was not the mistress who appeared but the spirit of my mother-in-law. She had grown impatient with me not yet divorcing my husband and had plotted to eliminate me. The extent to which the mistress was possessed by my mother-in-law is quite pitiful. Thinking about it makes me feel somewhat sorry for the mistress. However, my father-in-law had noticed that she was after the money, and had approached my ex-husband with that intent. So he wrote that there was no need to feel sorry for her. 5 years have passed since then. When I went to visit my father-in-law's grave on the anniversary of his death, I ran into some relatives of my ex-husband, and naturally, the conversation turned to him. On the day of the funeral, was it Kathy? She said she would take care of Robert. As if possessed by Diane. Turns out she didn't have any money either. Where are they living now? In a cardboard house by the river. Oh, I see. Given their situation 5 years ago, it wasn't surprising that they ended up homeless. Time has just flowed naturally toward this outcome. While I imagined they might regret their current hardships, it seems that wasn't the case. Actually, they don't seem to be aware of their tough life. He laughs as if he's living in a mansion. Is that okay? Of course, it's not okay. If left alone, they'll cause trouble for many people. We had no choice but to collaborate with other relatives and admit them to a psychiatric hospital. I see, that must have been tough for everyone. How much trouble did the relatives go through until they managed to admit My ex-husband to the psychiatric hospital? It must not have been easy. Apparently, as soon as he was admitted, my ex-husband started to act wildly. The mistress underwent a similar transformation and was also admitted to the psychiatric hospital. Though it's unlikely that they will ever return to their former selves. It's hoped that the doctors and nurses dealing with them will face fewer troubles from their antics. On a side note, the letter from my father-in-law mentioned that my parents had been protecting me. Considering that I survived a traffic accident in the past, this is entirely possible. However, if my father-in-law had not let me escape 7 years ago, I might not be here today. Thinking about this, I feel sure that he too was looking out for me. Though he never mentioned it explicitly, I believe he must be watching over me from heaven. To reassure the three of them who are watching over me, I want to lead a happy life from now on.